We've got a new set. Well, strictly speaking, it's not exactly a new set, it's just a different angle on something that we had previously, but I like to refer it to as one as simply just to refreshen things a little bit. They are a bit refreshed. Do you like it? I do. And what I also do like is this. For those of you who don't know, this is Obi-Wan's Kenobi lightsaber from the Star Wars universe. And the reason why I like that thing so much is because it tells a story. It has quite a deep meaning to it because of all the things, all the events that have happened with this lightsaber, with the person who was holding this lightsaber, and everything around the person that was holding this lightsaber. This alone, this object alone, can spark a lot of different thoughts and memories about things that we have witnessed throughout our years, especially if you were watching Star Wars quite closely as I did. That thing represents storytelling. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about storytelling. Not very convenient. Now, you have probably heard quite a lot about storytelling, or just in general, you probably have heard that term used already, especially if you work in community of content creators, or maybe in filmmaking, or any other cultures, really, or any other cultural representations of arts, because this term is quite widely known for putting meaning, deeper meaning, into some kind of an action or an object or pretty much anything else. We use storytelling in order to richen something that we talk about, or we portray, or we perform about. We try to give it more additional colors around it. And professional League of Legends broadcasts are actually no different. We do that there quite often as well. Even though it may seem pretty much irrelevant or maybe not important, trying to put a little bit of more meaning into the things that we talk about help us to find the way how to bind all those three variables together. Those variables being us, the casters, them, the players, and you, the viewers. Using those little storytelling details, we manage to create stories that both you and I probably not going to forget in the nearest of time, in the closest future. That helps us to find something more just to people sitting in front of their PCs, clicking randomly on the minimap or map in general, and walking around and doing esports. And a fair question can be, of course, how do we actually storytell? What are those little tricks that we use in order to try and tell a bigger story? Well, luckily, League of Legends offers quite a variety of different things, not just as a game or sports, but also it offers the variety of those things based on how many layers do we actually have when we talk about a professional league. So we can connect those little storytelling things to the players, to the organization, sometimes even to champions or somebody who has something to do with those champions. It can be someone's performance on that particular champion. It can be also connected with the way how the team works in or operates in this very particular moment of time, whether it is, for example, a bad score on international events, or maybe something else. It can be a scoreboard as well. You can build a story, you can build a narrative just based on the score outlines of the two teams. It can be a pretty much standard underdog story with nothing being in there way too complicated or way too specific. Or it can be something a bit more bigger, like rivalry of the previous teammates, for example. Or maybe a miracle run, something that we absolutely love and adore seeing in League of Legends, because miracle runs make histories, and a lot of teams that manage to secure those miracle runs are remembered to this very day, or their miracle runs is something that just appear in our mind instantly when we say the term. Whether it is Fnatic and their miracle run in the World's Groups, I believe it was 2017 or 2018. I probably am wrong on the date here a little bit, so don't quote me on that, but it was definitely Fnatic, definitely Groups. Or maybe just recently when we were casting Ultraliga, there was this team called Gentleman's Gaming right there in Season 8, and they managed to secure themselves a miracle run when they literally had only one win out of the entire first half of the tournament, and then for the second half they went almost undefeated, managing to get themselves to the playoffs and then continually pushing onwards all the way to the quarters. Maybe it is not that big of a scale as it would be if it was Worlds, for example, but it is something that we just remember because these moments create a tornado, a swirling tornado of emotions. And in order not to go way too far in trying to find an explanation, how do we do that? We can actually do that just in one game. We don't even have to go that colossal in terms of the scales of these stories, because even inside one game we can look at how the game progresses and think, very well, so we have this one very particular player on team A, let's say the blue team that is playing on the blue side of the map, and he seems to be the reason why the team is succeeding in the team fights, why the team is able to find somehow very beneficial fight for themselves, whether it is a carry champion that is able to do a lot of damage, or maybe it is a champion that is able to set up those team fights in the favorable way for the blue team. So if that is happening, what I will do as a caster is pick up on this very particular topic and try to outline the actions of that player for as long as possible, especially in terms of the preparation to the team fights and then the team fights themselves. I'm going to pinpoint your attention exactly to that person, mainly because I want you to follow the story of that player as it writes the story of this entire game. League of Legends offers quite a bit of information to work with, quite a good chunk of different things that influence the way how the scoreboard is going to behave or the entire game itself is going to behave. And in order to create those stories, maybe macro stories or maybe micro stories, you have to try and keep track of everything that is going on. You can centralize every single game around something that is going to help you and build that particular story. It doesn't even necessarily has to be the player. It can be just a champion. So for example, that we know that there's one particular champion that is very good at setting up the fight, something very close to the previous thing when it was about the player. Now, if you outline that particular champion, it also makes it quite interesting from the point of view of it is not just the player who's very good on this champion, it's the champion that allows these sorts of plays to happen. Then there can be, of course, the synergy, something that we also can talk about, or maybe it can be a buff that will help us see why this exact play or this little period of time of, for example, let's say 2 to 3 minutes, is going to be crucial for the entire outcome of the game. And I'm not even beginning to rant about how many things we can use in order to create those stories based on organizations and their rich history, or maybe the rivalry that they have created on the international scene, or maybe something else, maybe previous teammates, maybe some achievements that haven't been yet achieved by one of the players, etc., etc. There's an extreme plethora of those little things that help you create these stories. And I only can encourage beginning casters and just casters in general to tell those little stories. And for you as a viewer, I give you a little bit of a challenge. When you are listening or watching the broadcast, keep your eyes open for those little things. For those little things when the caster throws it in there and makes you point your attention towards one very little specific bit, as it may just open you a little bit, open you the door a little bit on how we professional casters do our job. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. You'll hear from me quite soon, and I'll see you in the next video.